Franzen. Working today with the Indian Mills Historical Society, and we're going to talk with Dink about history in Indian Mills and about his own history and how that all kind of relates to each other. So I've got a series of set questions that I'm going to ask you. A lot of them are really simple, and the first one is the easiest one, I think. It's, what is your full name?
Leon Grover Dinky King.
Okay, Grover.
Yeah.
Now Grover, is that after another relative or something?
No,
or?
I was named after Grover Braddock in Memphis.
How about that? And did you know when you were growing up, were a lot of your friends, did they have middle names like that of people
We
who
all
are
had nicknames.
Nicknames.
That's what we used, nicknames.
And is that how you got the nickname Dink?
Yeah, no, my grandmom King gave that to me.
Why?
She had all of us, and she'd hook you to a clothesline so she could know where you was.
Wow.
And grandmom would look across the field, and she would come get me. And she said, "You've been dinking into things, huh?" And that name stuck with her.
How about that? That's neat. That's neat. And okay, when were you born?
Mother's Day, 1941.
And was that in Indian Mills? Or?
Yeah, I was born. Tilly Harshinsky delivered me.
In the family house? Or?
Yeah.
And Tilly was like a midwife or something?
That would be Sonny's great-grandma.
Great-grandma. Did she do that kind of stuff regularly? Or?
I don't know, because she lived down the road. Stokes Road was 2 dirt ruts.
Right.
And she lived across from the Pine Belt. She walked down the road and delivered me. Yeah.
Was that common back in those days?
So.
I think that's how it happened in a lot of places.
You didn't have telephone, you didn't have electric.
Right. Well, that brings up 2 really good questions that I didn't think about. You just mentioned. When did the telephone come to Indian Mills?
Well, there's certain places had it, but we didn't have it until 1950. They started running electric.
And when you had the phone, was it like the kind you wound up and you had to pick it up?
No, you dialed.
Oh, you had dial, right to dial.
We didn't have to get the phone to the 60s.
The 60s, geez. And do you know if the phone company was the phone company out of Vincenttown, or was that earlier?
AT&T, yeah.
AT&T earlier, yeah. And electricity came about the same time then?
It come, I think, was after my father died. Yeah. He died June 20th, 1950.
1950, yeah. I've talked to some people up in Tabernacle about the electricity, and I guess it all came through at the same time, because they say the same thing about 1950 as, sorry, the phones, when the phones came in, about that time. So, my next question, I think I already know the answer, but it's a question we're going to ask, is when did you move to Indian Mills?
I lived there all my life. Yeah.
And how about your mom and dad?
Well, my mother was a cotton. And when I was born, she lived right there where the old homestead is now.
Yeah, is that in Indian Mills? Or?
Yeah. Well, now they call it Shamong.
Shamong, yeah. And so what road was that you lived on?
Stokes Road.
On Stokes Road. Back in the day, as a kid, what are the first things you think about when you think about growing up in Indian Mills? What do you remember?
What do I remember?
Yeah.
You got to get up and go to work.
And that was like at the crack of dawn, and
we used to in the field by 7, and on Sundays it was after 8.
And what kind of work were you doing in the fields?
Full work. Nobody else would do it today.
Yeah. Was it, what kind of crops? I imagine there were a lot of crops that
tomatoes, cabbage, beans, string beans.
A lot of the vegetable crops, Truck farming, I guess they'd call it.
Yeah, well, yeah. because we used to, every Sunday, have to cut a load of cabbage to go to Philly here.
Yeah. Did the tomatoes go to Campbell's Soup?
Stokes's.
Stokes's. And where was that?
Vincenttown.
Right. Yeah. What kind of toys did you have as a kid?
We didn't have none. You had a hoe.
A hoe. And the games you played then was like hoeing
Yeah.
between the rows to get the weeds out.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Who were your friends?
We didn't have many unless they was in the field.
Yeah, so that was.
Yeah.
So you were in the fields almost 7 days a week then?
Yep. In
Wow.
the summertime. And you was barefoot.
Yeah, my goodness. Did your feet ever get real hot or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you keep cool? When
You didn't. You drank water and did what you had to.
Did you wear a straw hat or something? Or?
A lot of times we didn't have the money to buy a hat.
Wow.
You worked where you was.
Boy, oh boy. You have other relatives in Indian Mills, right?
Yeah.
Who were some of them?
John Jennings used to go there. Old Charlie Jennings that tumble in, we'd get a Coke. You could buy a bottle of Coke for a nickel. You know what I mean? To tumble in.
Oh, the Tumble In. Yeah, when it was called the Tumble In.
Yep.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't remember that.
Yeah. Now that was an old building too, wasn't it?
Yes.
An old inn or something.
Yeah.
And there's a name for that intersection, isn't it? Is that called Delet or Flyett or something?
Flyett's here.
Flyett's right here. Yeah. What was there one for the Tumble In then, or for that intersection? Did they call that anything?
That was called Jackson Road all the way to Flyett.
Okay.
They changed that at Township.
Yeah.
Engineer.
Yeah. I got like 6 different questions running through my head. I'm trying to pick out one to ask because I want to go off record here. What were the roads like?
Dirt.
Dirt. Now, when you say dirt, I mean I know we all know what dirt is, but I mean was it
ruts.
2 ruts? Was it like sand dirt
Yeah.
or gravel or
Most of it around here was sand.
sand? And you had the 2 ruts, and how often did you get stuck in the?
You didn't get stuck.
Yeah.
Because they wasn't tore up like they are today.
What kind of cars were you
We didn't have cars.
Oh.
You either walk. And there finally you get enough money to buy a bicycle.
Wow. So did other farmers use like Model Ts and stuff like that?
Ones, a lot of the rich ones, or I call rich, had money. They was making money.
And so they had the Model Ts then?
Yeah, Model A's and stuff.
I was talking to a fella the other day, and he was telling me about how his dad used to do some delivery work for a store out of Tabernacle.
Risers.
Yeah. And they came down to Indian Mills and stuff like that.
Hey,
yeah.
Here comes the lost soul.
Yeah.
Hello, Kathy.
Hey, how are you, Dink?
Come on over, son.
Dink.
How you doing?
You can come on. We can. Why don't he just let him join us, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let me pause this.